Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching WION Climate Tracker with me, Mori Gambhir. Before we get started, a quick look at what's lined up for you on the show. Climate change. You must have heard this term millions of times. We already know the devastating impact caused by climate change across the world. It has caused more intense wildfires, heat waves, floods, hurricanes. And to counter all these problems, promises have been made by countries to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. There have been pledges and commitments. But 7 years on, it seems that the countries are not living up to their promises. According to the CDP, a non-profit disclosure platform, and Oliver Wyman, global management consultancy, companies in the G7 economies are failing to meet the Paris Climate Agreement objectives based on the current corporate pledges to cut emissions. G7, which comprises of Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the US, the analysis looked at the climate plans of more than 4,000 firms across the world's 7 largest economies. And it shows corporate emissions targets in the G7 countries are overall on a 2.7 degrees Celsius warming trajectory for 2100. And this is a cause of concern. The 2015 Paris Climate Treaty enjoins nations to cap global warming at well below the 2 degrees Celsius and 1.5 degrees Celsius if possible. However, our planet's average surface temperature has already risen 1.2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. The analysis essentially showed that companies in Canada and Japan had fared the worst in ratings. Canada was the worst performing in terms of decarbonization plans. The country was leading to a warming of 3.1 degrees Celsius of planet heating. Meanwhile, the US had 2.8 degrees Celsius. The study stated that 88% of the reported greenhouse gas emissions were coming from firms that have no disclosed net zero plans. And on the other hand, by comparison, European countries fared much better. German and Italian businesses were associated with a warming of 2.2 degrees Celsius, followed by France with 2.3 degrees Celsius and the UK with 2.6 degrees Celsius. Now, this study should come as a wake-up call for all the countries ahead of the November COP27 International Climate Summit in Egypt, where nearly 200 countries will convene to discuss and agree upon how to jointly address the climate change crisis. And after that, what has been a devastating summer of drought, heat waves and other climate-linked extreme weather events. Meanwhile, floods continue to wreak havoc in Pakistan. The official estimates say 1,343 people have lost their lives, including 474 children. They also say that over 33 million people have been impacted. Let me show you a video now. This is the level of desperation in Pakistan, where people who have been left marooned due to the flooding, what are they doing? They are fighting over aid. With no homes, livelihoods have been snatched away as well. People could be seen fighting over a sack of wheat. Have a look. Meanwhile, authorities are trying to prevent Pakistan's biggest lake from overflowing. Pakistan is widening a breach in Sindh's Manchar Lake to prevent it from overflowing. The breach had occurred naturally and was helping drain the lake, which was approaching dangerous water levels. Authorities had also breached the lake's dike at 2 other locations earlier in an effort to save the densely populated cities of Sehwan and Bhan Saidabad. In Sindh province, water from the lake had been diverted to less populated areas. Around 100,000 people have been evacuated from around the lake already. And if it overflows, authorities say it could affect hundreds of thousands more. And the region already faces the dangers of waterborne and skin diseases, dengue fever, snake bites, breathing issues. Sindh's health minister has said that over 1,200 medical facilities are underwater. The field hospitals are receiving nearly 20,000 diarrhea and 16,000 malaria cases daily. The World Health Organization has said over 6.4 million people need aid in the flooded areas. Around a third of Pakistan is inundated. The Indus River, which runs through the country, continues to overflow. Houses in the city of Hyderabad in Sindh are being submerged by the Indus. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees has warned that more rainfall is expected in the coming months and could make the situation even worse. Pakistan has already received 190% more rain than its 30-year average in July and August. The Sindh province received 466% more rain than average. The UN chief in his speech on Tuesday highlighted the importance of tackling climate change.
Today it is Pakistan, tomorrow it can be anywhere else. To deal with climate change, that is a defining issue of our time, with a business as usual approach is pure suicide.
The effects of climate change can be quite unbearable and the indicators are clearly visible. Heat waves, one of the strongest indicators of climate change, are becoming more frequent and intense. As countries around the world are sweltering, temperatures in many countries reaching record-breaking highs, adding to the list is China, as it logs its hottest August since the records began. China has been struggling with an unusually intense heat wave that has left rivers parched, scorched crops, triggered isolated blackouts. Last month, southern China sweltered under what experts have said may have been one of the worst heat waves in global history. And some of the worst hit areas were parts of Sichuan province and the megacity of Chongqing, as they experienced a string of days with temperatures hitting well over 40 degrees Celsius. And it was also confirmed that it was China's third driest August on record, with average rainfall 23.1% lower than average. Further, last month, temperatures as high as 45 degrees Celsius prompted multiple Chinese provinces to impose power cuts as cities battled to cope with the surge in electricity demand. Somalia is facing a deadly drought. The situation in the country is growing grimmer with each passing day. The UN has even warned that the drought has left Somalia on the brink of famine. There is not enough food. There is a hunger crisis. Thousands of children have been suffering from malnutrition. Our next report tells you more. Take a look.
Hundreds of children have already died in nutrition centres across Somalia, the United Nations Children's Agency said on Tuesday. That grim revelation comes the day after the UN's humanitarian chief warned that parts of the country will be hit by famine in the coming months. Experts say the Horn of Africa is heading towards a fifth consecutive failed rainy season, further exacerbating the region's worst drought in decades. UNICEF's Somalia representative, Wafaa Saeed, told a press conference in Geneva that 730 children have been reported to have died in food and nutrition centres between January and July this year.
And to put it into perspective, this is less than 1% of the children who were admitted and cured and discharged. But we also fear that this number could be more as many deaths of children go unreported.
UNICEF said disease outbreaks were increasing among children. There have been some 13,000 suspected measles cases reported in recent months, of which 78% were children under 5.
Malnutrition has reached unprecedented level. We have 1.5 million children. This is nearly half of the children under 5 are likely to have acute malnutrition, and of them, 385,000 will need treatment for severe acute malnutrition.
On Monday, UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths said famine is at the door in Somalia. He said there were concrete indications that parts of south-central Somalia would be hit between October and December this year. Funding for Somalia has increased in recent weeks, with the UN's $1.46 billion appeal now 67% funded. But aid officials warned that it had come very late and that more was needed.
And for more on this, our correspondent Louisa Oleani has sent us this report from Nigeria. Take a look.
The warning on Monday did not come as a surprise, as we know that the recurrent drought and conflict situation in Somalia in the past decades often leaves the citizens with little or no time to recover after every phase. And that has led to the situation getting to the crisis level. And on the global scale, the food crisis rocking the globe has been orchestrated by the war between Russia and Ukraine that has led to the increase in prices of grains, fertilizers, and even fuel. And this calls for concern as the country is moving towards a famine and is going to be affected by all of these factors. The solution there, like the UN chief said, is for the international organization, international community to come to the aid of Somalia in no distant time to prevent a further crisis. Sometimes some of these figures are often underreported, and despite the fact that the Somalian government is yet to declare full-fledged famine in the country, UNICEF has said that aids have started coming in for the country in recent weeks. We also hear that the likes of UAE and other countries have been sending food relief materials to the country, and these are things that we must keep seeing if the situation must be addressed in no distant time.
Antarctica's Thwaites Glacier may melt faster than earlier predicted. Scientists have raised an alarm. They say that the Doomsday glacier, which it is commonly referred to as, is holding by its fingernails. The glacier is around the size of the state of Florida, and its melting could raise sea levels by up to 2 feet. That is how crucial this is. It's that and the fact that it acts as a buffer between warming seas and the much larger West Antarctic ice sheet that gives it its ominous nickname. And a recent study was published in the science journal, The Nature, on the glacier's retreat. It says that the glacier has melted far faster in past centuries than has been observed in recent years. And this means that a similar brisk pace of retreat could be triggered in the future. Glaciers are usually connected to dry land. The Doomsday is a rare case when the ice shelf is connected to the seabed, and this makes it more prone to rising temperatures and possible dismantling as compared to the rest. In the study, researchers concluded the glacier had lost contact with a seabed ridge. They say the glacier is retreating at a speed of 1.3 miles per year, a rate double of what they predicted between 2011 and 2019. It's double that rate. Scientists studied the pattern of the retreat by using underwater drones. It is the first time that the seafloor under the glacier was mapped. The ridges that were then studied are being called a footprint. They show where the base of the glacier has previously been sitting. And what happens when the ice shelves start melting rapidly, and how will this impact the world around us? Our next report breaks it down for you.
Ice shelves are permanent floating extensions of an ice sheet connected to a landmass. Most are along the coast of Antarctica, but they can also be found in Greenland, Canada, and parts of Russia. They form when ice from enormous ice sheets approaches the sea as a glacier. If the ocean is cold enough, an ice shelf pushed forwards by glaciers does not melt. Over time it can grow, gaining ice mass. Sometimes it can shrink. Until recently, there was a rough balance between the amount ice shelves shed and accumulated. But now, the ice is melting, and melting fast, especially in the Antarctic. Scientists say warmer air and higher ocean temperatures are behind the change. Warm air melts the surface of the shelf, forming pools. The water trickles downwards through small cracks, making them wider. Meanwhile, warmer water circulates under the floating shelf, melting it from below, expanding the cracks further. Finally, an iceberg breaks away from the ice shelf, a process called calving. Scientists believe it's vital that ice shelves do not disintegrate. Without an ice shelf to slow their speed, glaciers would accelerate and flow into the ocean, contributing to a dramatic sea level rise.
Did you know that 90% of the world's trade is by sea? And though the oceans provide the main transport arteries for global trade, it comes at a huge price. As the waves carry the trade across different continents, the ships leave behind a trail of pollutants, suffocating marine life and adding to climate change. But in a bid to bring about an innovative change here, France has unveiled a zero-particle ship. True to its name, the ship claims that it has a special filter which eliminates most of the pollutants produced by the ship. Take a look.
As early as the mid-15th century, with the Silk Road, the seas have proved again and again how they can be used effectively for transporting goods. But what does it gain in return? Heaps and heaps of pollution. From sewage and other harmful chemicals killing corals to accidental oil spills choking the life out of all marine life. The cost that the ocean has to pay in return is enormous. Though various environmental organizations are working towards cleaning the oceans, some of the damage done is quite irreversible. At a time when the effects of climate change are breathing down our necks and most of our oceans are infested with pollutants, France has come forward to unveil a zero-particle ferry, claiming to be the first of its kind. Now, the ferry is said to emit zero polluting particles during the course of its journey. Well, the question is, how does it manage to do this? The revolutionary boat has a special filter that helps to eliminate 99% of sulfur oxides emitted by the ship.
We have a system that is relatively complete, which treats both fine particles, ultra-fine particles, but also gases. It's true that for a company like La Meridionale, it's really exceptional because it's not a giant in this field, so we can really applaud the company's commitment.
The benefits of this type of system, beyond the reduction of sulfur oxides, is the reduction of fine particles in mass and ultrafine in number by up to 99.9%.
The innovative equipment treats all particle emissions produced by the ship and curtails pollution produced by the ferry.
We didn't go looking very far actually. We didn't invent anything. It's a system, a process that is used in most industrial incineration plants, household waste, biomass power plants, etc. The baghouse filter has existed for almost 30 years now. So the challenge for us was to make it suitable for the maritime sector. That is, given the volume and weight, how do we get it on board a ship when we take into account the issues of ship stability and space?
The unique pollution control technology of the boats ensures that sulfur and fine particles escaping from the engine are first neutralized with sodium bicarbonate and then filtered, making sure that it does not harm any marine life while it's traveling. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Do you get scared when the aircraft experiences even a little bit of turbulence? You better put on your seat belts, is the warning sign. As climate change now proves that air turbulence could get a lot worse. You might want to put on your seatbelts for this as well. Air turbulences are normal and happen often. They can prove to be dangerous as well. And a latest analysis predicts that clear air turbulence will increase significantly around the world by the period 2050 to 2080. In particular, along the busiest flight routes, it is the strongest type of turbulence will increase the most. Talking about turbulences, it's of three types. Number one, light turbulence, where the plane rises or drops by near 1 meter. This is hardly noticeable. The second type is a moderate turbulence. The plane here goes up or down by 3 to 6 meters. Your drinks may spill in such a situation. And the final type of turbulence is a severe turbulence, where the altitude change can be up to 30 meters. And when that happens, passengers are prone to falling from their seats unless they have their seatbelts strapped. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, air turbulences are the leading cause of injuries to flight attendants and passengers, and injuries, delays, damages caused by air turbulences cost U.S. airlines up to $500 million per year. The National Transportation Safety Board has said that between 2000 and 2018, the flight crew had no warning about 28% of turbulence-related accidents. About 65,000 aircraft suffer moderate turbulence every year in the US, and about 5,500 run into severe turbulence. But the number is expected to grow. Scientists believe climate change will cause much more violent turbulence, and computer simulations have found that severe turbulence could double or even triple in the coming decades. Swimming in different shades of blue, a green turtle was spotted in the sandy cove on the eastern coast of Cyprus, one of the largest sea turtles. The green turtle is an endangered species, typically found in tropical and subtropical waters, but migrating long distances to feed and hatch eggs. Considered as the third most important location for the reproduction of turtles, it has often been blessed with visits from the endangered reptiles. We're leaving you with these visuals. Thanks for watching.